Hi, I'm John, and here's what I'm doing today. I'm going to turn this to this. The title's a little misleading. I'm adding a washer and dryer here, but there was actually already one here, but I ripped out all the plumbing lines. So here is what we're going to do. You can actually see the remnant of one here. That's the old plumbing. Ignore the red and blue tubes. I am replacing all of the plumbing in the house with PEX. I'm doing half the house. This half will be when we redo the other bathroom. So here's what happened. I cut the lines to put in this stuff up here. And in order to do that, you need to shut the main water off, open a faucet upstairs. Usually you want your highest faucet. This is a single-story ranch, so I just picked one upstairs. That allows air to vent in, and then you open your lowest faucet, which was this one, and all the water that remains in the pipes, even though the water is shut off, there's still water in the pipes. It flows out, dumped into a bucket, and then into there. Well, here's the problem. When I turn the water back on, I closed this valve, and it was dripping pretty bad. It was filling about a gallon or so in here every single day. Really bad. So that needs to be replaced. And I didn't want to just do the shut off since I am replacing everything. So when I did this, I put this on. So it's actually open. The water is shut off. I was just finishing up the bathroom. So the water's already shut off. But I put these up so we can have shutoffs for it. I wasn't sure when I was going to get this done, and it's also nice to have that secondary shutoff just in case something goes wrong down here. So that is the plan. We are going to replace all this, and then here's our drain. We're just going to use that for now. At a later date, I'm going to run PVC up to it, and it'll be much nicer, and I might put a sink in here as well, which is nice having these shutoffs so I can do it without shutting the water off to the house. Anyways, so let me show you all the stuff we need. So this is everything that we're gonna need. Let's start with tools. A nail gun. If you go cordless, then that works. If you are using an air-powered one, you'll need an air tank, air compressor as well. This is optional. If you're doing what I'm doing, you can screw the boards together. You'll see what I'm talking about. If not, you could potentially go right up to a wall. My situation, because I've got poured concrete, I don't want to attach right to the wall. I'm going to attach to, I'm going to build a little wall. An impact and a drill. You could use a drill for both. It's just easier to have separate ones. You may need a large drill bit, which I don't have here. That's still upstairs. I'll have to grab that. Then we'll need a PEX cutter. This is about 10 bucks at Home Depot. A crimp tool. This is about 50 bucks at the Home Depot. A crescent wrench and a hammer. And that's what you need for tools. Then we're going to need PEX piping. Now these come in 10-foot lengths. This is leftover from that. But 10 foot length of that is about $3. Now here's the thing. Typically you'll do blue for cold water and red for hot water. Or you could just do white for everything, or blue for everything, or red for everything. It doesn't matter. They're $3 each. I wanted to do both just because I think it looks cool. But however you want to do it. And then for fittings and parts and whatnot, we're going to put this up. This is why I'm building a little wall. This is going to be the actual connection. And we are actually going to do it like this, where it's coming from the top. Or should we? I don't know. We'll think about that later. You're going to need crimps. These are what actually attach the piping to the fittings. And then you're going to need either elbow fittings like this to make turns, or these, which help you just curve the pipe to make the turn. All of this is fairly cheap. We'll skip over that. We'll talk about that in a second. These are clamps. These are so you can nail them to the studs or the rafters to hold them in place. Then you're going to need potentially these. This is a drop ear T. Now what this is going to do, we're going to have the pipe go through, but then this middle part is going to be the water hammer arrestor. Let me show you what they used to do. So you may have noticed this, when your washing machine shuts off, or if you turn off a faucet really fast, it makes a loud bang. It's called water hammer because there's a difference in pressure when that happens. So what they used to do is take a length of pipe like this, right before the faucet, and just run it to a cap. And that has air inside of it and helps reduce that water hammer noise. Now because this is a plastic pipe, it's a little more bendy, and so it's less likely to have it, but it doesn't hurt. These are about 10 bucks each. All of this was at the Home Depot, by the way. These are about 10 bucks each, and we'll screw right into there, right before we hit the faucet. Additionally, you may need a shark bite. This is what you would use if you're tying into copper pipe. Now this is a T, which I'm going to be using for another project. Over here is what just a transition looks like. And they just push in. You make the cut, you use an emery cloth or sandpaper or something to clean that up, and you just push it in, and then you push the other side in, and that's how you transition. A lot of people don't trust these because you just push them in. I've heard nothing but good things about them, but being the cautious person I am, I'm only putting them in areas that are exposed and accessible. I'm not going to bury them into the wall. And we're actually going to transition to having everything PEX, so we won't even need these in the future. These are just on temporarily. But if you're doing PEX off of copper, I mean, they make things where you can solder it on and then it'll have a PEX connector on the other side. You can do that too. This is going to be your easiest way. Lastly, some other things you might need. These, if you're doing a long run of pipe, these are 1/2-inch couplings. We're doing 1/2-inch pipe. Basically, it's to connect 2 pipes together. You could also possibly need a T if you're connecting some pipes together, 3 pipes together. And then this would be a shutoff if you want to put an additional shutoff on the line somewhere. Other things you might need are these plates. If you're going through the studs of the wall, if the pipe is going through it, code requires you to put this nail plate in front of it so you don't actually nail something into the water pipe. And that's basically it. You may also need, if you're working with copper, a pipe cutter. This is for cleaning the in and outside of the pipes. A deburring tool to take the copper, the burrs off. And then this is what we use for sanding the pipes down to make it look nice. By the way, I need to leave a little disclaimer. This video is not meant to be advice or instructions. This is simply documenting what I'm doing. I'm not a licensed plumber. I have zero knowledge in this. I learned how to do this from watching videos the other day. So maybe consult a professional before you do this. So I mentioned this earlier. Step 1, I've already done this. Turn off the water to the house. You'll find a water main similar to this, or it may be a ball valve where you just rotate it. But you'll want to turn off the water to the house. Next, find a tap, the highest water tap in the house. Usually it's going to be on your 2nd floor or 3rd floor or 7th floor, depending on how big your house is. You're just going to open both the hot and cold lines. You might see a little bit drip out, and you're going to leave that open. Next, you're going to go probably in your basement and open the hot and cold, the lowest lines in the house. This actually isn't connected to anything. The pipe went up the wall before. I'm just demonstrating what it looks like to open up a valve. The reason you're going to want to do this is because when you shut off the water, there's still water sitting in the pipes. So opening up the lowest valve allows it all to flow down. Problem though, there's nothing to replace the water in the pipes. So by opening up the top one, air can pull up in through the faucet and you won't create a vacuum. If you create a vacuum, that means water stays in the pipe. Now, ultimately, you don't have to do this. You can cut into a pipe with water in it. You're just gonna get wet. Your water is shut off, so you're only gonna get the water that's in the pipes covering you. You're gonna wanna do this. So that is step 1. Definitely, you don't wanna touch this until you start shutting off water. Now, if you've got an alternate shut off like this, we're not doing anything with the main water. We've got a shut off right here. You can shut that off. Personally, I like to do the whole house just to be safe, especially since I'm going to be tying into these shutoffs. If I had a shut off further back, then it'll be another story. But that is the first thing to do. Make sure you shut the water off to the house. So we've already removed the pipes, but this thing is in the way. So let's try and do this with one hand. And I already tried unscrewing it. Those are really in there. There. That actually did a lot less damage than the other one. The screws are still in there. It's not a big deal. Not going to be in the way. This one came off. I didn't even break this off. It came off when I pulled the whole pipe off. This one, the pipe just broke off the faucet. So that will go into this pile and get recycled. Now we're measuring the height. Floor to these beams right here. Minus 3 inches. That's important. We're doing a top plate and a bottom plate. 1/2 inch each, 3 inches total. This measurement is 83.5 inches tall. With subtract 3 inches, that's 80.5 inches. We're gonna cut a couple of 2x4s that length. So I've made my marks at 80.5. This is actually 2x4s, and 8 for 2x4 is like $8-9 now. So I used used ones. I just pulled all the screws out. So we're gonna use a framing square You like that? That happened today. Another tool that I forgot to mention. We're just gonna line it up on here so we can get a perfectly straight line. Try to do this with one hand. There. Now we got a perfectly straight line. And we're gonna go to the chop saw. Now, it's time to go through and pick up all these screws and chunks of drywall. So we'll take care of those. Well, we've got our 2 boards cut, and we've got this scrap for a later project. I always save your scraps. These are actually 2 decent sized boards, but I even save these little ones because I'm actually gonna use 2 of them. So always save your scraps. Those 2 boards, not including the leftover, just those 2, saved me 16 bucks. They came out of a wall that we took out at work. So I got them for nothing, and it took just a couple of minutes to take the sheetrock off, the little bits and pieces, and all the screws. Now we're gonna stack up the boards and put these on just like studs. We're gonna lay it out, making sure this fits. We want a little bit of wiggle room. So with that being the case, we can just put this on here and draw our line. I need 2 hands to do this, but draw a line, and that's what you want. So you just mark an X where the stud's gonna go. That way you know it's in the exact same spot. And then this piece will go up here. Now with them standing together, you don't need to worry about the other side. That can be adjusted. We're gonna line this up, throw in a couple of nails. Now, because we have our markings on here, we can line it up the same way, and we'll do the same thing. We want to go over a little bit. And we've got our little wall built. Now, ideally, you would cut this to the top and bottom plate to be the same size. It really doesn't matter to me. I didn't feel like cutting them. I just grabbed scraps. And there's a possibility that we're going to put it here. I might extend it down just so we can hang some shelves without having to hang it right into the block. So now, we're going to put the wall up. So now it's up. I haven't attached it to anything. I wanted to make sure we're not too close to this outlet. And then I wanted to stand it off a little bit because we get this, which is actually coming out. This panel is getting grounded this week. That's the ground wire going to the plumbing. So that's coming out, but this one's staying in. So we're just gonna give some clearance for it. You know, it's not like a full bona fide wall. It's just this, so it doesn't need to be right tied up against it, but looks good to me. We're gonna pop a couple of nails up here. On the bottom, not quite all the way there. The bottom isn't actually attached. We are going to attach it and just drive a couple of screws into the floor. So a couple more things I forgot to mention you'll need. A level and Tapcons or some sort of concrete anchor. So we're gonna make sure this is level. And well, it's kind of wiggly, so that doesn't matter right now. We're gonna make sure it's level. We're gonna drill a hole into the floor, and then we're gonna screw a screw in. I might be hitting some rebar or something, but we're pretty steady. That side, not so much. I don't think this one actually went into the concrete because there's wiggling a lot. So I'm gonna pull that one out and just go in a little further. All right, we got 3 anchors on the floor. We've got this up. Time to start with the plumbing. So I'll show you down here what I'm doing. I put a crimp on the end here. And then this, just imagine that's the one on the ceiling. We'll push in. We're gonna bring a crimp up. That's not in all the way. There we go. You want about 1/8 of an inch, just like that, of pipe showing. So it should be pretty well into that. And then we're gonna take our crimping tool, which is right here, and we're going to stick that little tab into there. And then as we squeeze, you can see That's getting smaller. It's crimping it down. And see that light? That means it's all the way down. So you just keep doing that until the light's on. So that is what we're going to do to attach this thing to the shutoff valve. Now we're going to take one of these nifty little things and put it on here to make the curve. I'm going to show you a close-up of what I did. First, I attached these hot and cold lines on here. You can see there's a little bit of a reveal. So now, I actually turned the valve off just so it was out of the way here, but it doesn't matter. Oh, and by the way, the valves I got have these little extra valves, I guess you would say. That way you can loosen them up and pour the water out if need be. So anyways, I attached those. We're strapped down in 2 places. Then we've got these nifty little things. These allow you to actually curve this piece of this material without having issues. Now, alternatively, another thing that we could do is we can cut it and put one of these on. And you notice how I'm going in front of here. If this was going to be a finished wall, if I was actually going to put sheetrock on there or something, I would have actually run it over top. I would put one of these on, drill the hole, and it goes straight down. But of course, this gradual curve is going to flow better. So you try to do that as much as you can. But of course, these are perfectly fine if you need them. Since this is an unfinished basement, I am perfectly content with leaving that exactly how it is, going over the front, because we're not ever going to cover this wall up. At most, we might use these as nailers with maybe a couple more to hang shelves so they won't be in the way. Next, we need to address this. All right, now this is assembled and put on. These tabs, well, first the faceplate just pulls right off, and then these tabs just click into these little sides here. And then I held it up to about where I wanted it and put a screw in. Then I leveled it and put the other screw in. So I decided where I wanted it based on where the old one was. We're about the same height. And now here's the beauty of it. We're going to use this for now, but eventually we're going to plumb this. You can actually connect your PVC right to here, and that's your drain line right there. Easy peasy. I had to take the knockout here. There's a plug that we're going to put in the center one, so we'll do hot and cold. Now I'm going to finish putting screws in here. I don't know how many you're supposed to do, but I guess we're doing 8. And we should be ready to plumb it in. All right, we are all screwed in place. Now take these off. I'm just going to take a utility knife and score the back a couple of times. I don't know if they'll just snap off, but this will definitely help. And there we go. We'll do the same for the other 4. Now it's worth noting, this box is designed for a finished wall. So if you're doing a finished wall, then you can have your sheetrock go right up to it, and all of your valves are hidden in here. This is obviously not a finished wall. The reason I decided to go with this is because I really couldn't find anything better for PEX laundry shutoff valves. And this was like 35 bucks. The 2 valves alone would have cost me at least 20, bare minimum. So it wasn't much more, and it is a nice clean look. So I went with it. Now we need to attach the valves and the plug, and then we will tie this in. But first we have something to do. We have to come up here and do those water hammer things. Now I'm just kind of going up a little bit. Let me show you how easy this cuts. This tool is about 10 bucks. There you go. That one was a little low. There, now it's even. All right, oops. I put them in backwards. Well, these should come out, hopefully. There we go. It just spins. Oh, this one's being stubborn. There we go. So you just push these tabs up and pull it until it locks in place. Same thing right here. Now it locks in place. It doesn't seem like it's a great lock, but I'm able to turn these valves. I feel like if there's a lot of force in the valve, it might unlock, but that's not a big deal because we're actually going to be attached up here. The plug went in the same way, and it looks like, not that it really, honestly, for this application, I really don't even need. Is it not locking the same way? Oh, I guess that one just turns. I really don't need to have this plug in because we're open. This is, if you have insulation on the wall or something, it'll keep the wall cavity closed, keep it looking nice down here. Especially if you had it flipped the other way where these are coming out of the bottom. I just put it in because I have it. I have absolutely no use for that plug otherwise, so might as well put it in. And then ball valve, whoop, you couldn't see what I was doing. Open, closed, closed, open. And that little pinhole you're seeing is actually the reflection of the camera here. So now, notice I cut these up here, not down here. We got one more thing. We gotta get the water hammers on. So I had an aha moment. Rather than bending these to the edge, this is why you keep your scraps. I just nailed these blocks in. So these are gonna be attached here. I did put these on. They're not permanently, I just dry fit them on because I realized they're not gonna both fit across. So I had to cut this one a little bit shorter. I haven't crimped that on yet. I had to cut this one a little bit shorter. So this one's longer and they're gonna be one above the other, which is fine. I would have liked to be a little closer to the center of the board, but I had already cut the pipe and put the boards on, so that'll work. Let's crimp this on and then screw these two things. Well, it might be easier to crimp the bottoms on first. So let's crimp these on and then we'll run the pipe down to here, do both crimps, and then we can screw these in place. And we are all plumbed down. We're crimped top and bottom. Now we'll just screw these to the sides. I don't really know that you really need to, but we're gonna do it anyway because the holes are there. And then we should be good to go. Oh, and then we'll put the water hammer arresters in there. And then we should be able to test the whole system. Now, the trick for these is Teflon tape. You're actually supposed to use this on most threaded connections. Sometimes you might see, well, actually it wouldn't be here. It would be on here. You might see a rubber washer. Then you don't need it. I still like to add it. Get you back on the shelf here. Basically, you want to go around this in a counterclockwise fashion because I'm twisted up here. Because when you twist it in, you want to be able to not unthread it. You're going to want to, I keep going off camera here. I'm trying to look at both the camera and what I'm doing. You want to cover all of the threads nice and tight. And you're going to want to go around it a couple of times. I keep going off camera. Hopefully it's not too annoying. Then you pull this off, and now when you screw it in, it's just going to tighten the tape. If you did it the other way, then when you screw it in, it would loosen the tape right off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tape the other one, and then I'm just going to screw them in finger tight, and then use pliers, or a wrench in this case, to tighten it the rest of the way. Make it nice and tight. I'm also going to screw in those fittings. And we're all in. We got these in, they're screwed on. Now, with that closed, I'm gonna test this connection again. I want to, before I do that, check all of these crimps that I did, because sometimes I like to just dry fit them. I wanna make sure they're all crimped, and they are. So now we're gonna turn on the water to the house, and just to prevent a lot of air from getting caught in there, before I turn on the water, I'm gonna open up a faucet upstairs. So now what we're just doing, and you can hear water running because that bathroom is right over there, is we're just feeling around here, making sure there's nothing. Then I'm gonna slowly open this. You can hear the water go through. We're gonna check these. Oh, I got water right here. So we're gonna shut this. There was a water leak right there. I don't know why. I actually really don't know why. So we're probably gonna have to cut this and redo that one. But there was definitely a water leak here. Let's check the other one while we're at it. I'm not feeling any water here. Other connections right here. Looks like there was water, but there's not any. Make sure your hands are completely dry when you do this so you're not fooled. My hands are still dry. I'm touching everywhere around all of these connections. Down here. All right, this one, I thought that was water drip at first. This one's completely dry. Let's check down here. On here. Now granted, we turned the water off on this one already. So this one has a leak. So that we're gonna need to fix. I'm not quite sure why, because we look crimped pretty well on there. So we'll do some investigating. So I'm second guessing myself. Oops, I just tripped over the screws. I turned this back on. Maybe it doesn't have a leak. Maybe my hand was just wet. So I'm just gonna leave this on for a few minutes. See if we see any drip. Like if it just bursts, it's an unfinished basement, that slopes and drains really nicely. So we'll just leave it for about 5-10 minutes. Let my hands dry because they were just wet when I shut the water off. Upstairs at the faucets. We'll see if we have any drips on here. I think we might be good. Although my hands are damp, so I'm gonna wait a little bit. I'll quick show you the bathroom. I did this off camera today. The hot one was already done, but I did the cold and the toilet. No leaks here, but I'm gonna leave it pressurized, even though the idea is to have, I've got shutoffs in the basement, I'll shut off this whole bathroom. The idea is to leave them off until we're basically done. I'm gonna leave them pressurized probably until we're ready to start putting drywall up, just because if a leak comes out, it should, it might not come out right away, but after a couple hours or a couple of days. So I'm just gonna leave them pressurized with water in them, just in case, just to kind of verify. The walls probably aren't gonna be closed up for at least a few days, so we still have a plumber coming to do this stack because that's a big cast iron. I don't want to even bother doing that. Then we gotta wait for the city to come and inspect anyways, so it's gonna be at least a few days before we do anything with these. And if you're wondering why this is being blocked by this whole thing is gonna come out and we're gonna come straight out and then up to the sink. So it's not gonna be blocked once the cast iron's out. And you can see we did the water hammers down here, the water hammer arresters down here as well, but not on the toilet because the toilet doesn't just shut off really hard. It slowly closes its own valve, so it's not really necessary. So that's why we did it this way. So back down here, we're nice and dry. I just felt this though, and it was damp, and that gave me a theory. So my first thought was maybe my hand was just wet and I touched it, and that's what made me think it was wet. But there's also, remember when I shut off the water, I used these to drain the lines out. So there was already water on here. So that could be what it is. So I just went and dried this off with my finger. it's deceiving because it's cold from the cold water. That's why I feel my fingers after I touch it. I'm not seeing any water, but now I dried this off completely. So we'll see if it will give it another 10 minutes or so and see if it's wet, but it might not have been a mistake. It might have just been the water from before because I opened these and held a bucket under it to drain the lines earlier. All right, it's been about 20 minutes. Moment of truth. Let's start with this. Those screws again. Let's start with this. Bone dry. Completely dry. So yeah, my guess is it just kind of fell on it. It was sitting on it from when I had that valve open to drain the lines. We're nice and dry, and we're done. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Maybe in a future date, I will extend the wall over on both sides and get this outlet so it's actually coming out to wall level, and then it'll feel a little bit more finished. This area is never going to be a finished space, but at least it'll feel a little bit nicer when we're doing laundry down here. As I'm cleaning up, I realized I forgot to put the decorative trim on, which just slides into place. You see it pulls off, pushes back on. And if it was ever sheetrock, the sheetrock would go behind it. So now we're done.